12 hidden gem countries most people never consider. Most people searching for a cheaper life abroad land on the same short list. Portugal, Mexico, Thailand, Costa Rica. These are fine choices, and there are good reasons they keep appearing. But the world is considerably larger than that short list suggests, and some of the most genuinely compelling places to live, retire, or invest right now are barely registering on most people's radar. In 2026, the gap between what is famous and what is actually worth your attention has never been wider. Rising prices in the established expat hotspots have pushed value further toward the edges of the map, toward smaller cities, overlooked coastlines, and a few surprising entries that almost nobody is talking about yet. Some of these destinations offer Mediterranean coastlines at a fraction of the cost. Others offer Caribbean weather with residency timelines that beat everything else in the hemisphere. And as you'll see, the top pick on this list offers something the others genuinely cannot match. Keep in mind, the figures presented here are approximations meant to give you a sense of the cost of living. Always verify with up-to-date sources before making any decisions. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 12, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Puerto Vallarta sits on Mexico's Pacific coast in the state of Jalisco, where the Sierra Madre Mountains meet the ocean and create one of the more visually striking settings in the country. The city proper has a genuine year-round population, well beyond the tourist infrastructure, and has built a reputation as one of the most welcoming communities in Latin America for retirees and expat families alike. The climate is warm and tropical, with a dry season running roughly November through April that brings ideal beach weather and consistent sunshine. The expat community here is one of the most established in the country, with strong LGBTQ+ representation, active social clubs, and direct flight connections to dozens of U.S. cities, which matters more than people admit when family visits are part of the equation. Cost of living runs around $1,600 a month all in for a comfortable lifestyle, with a one-bedroom apartment in the center coming in somewhere between $800 and $1,400 depending on proximity to the beach. For those looking to buy, entry-level property starts around $200,000. Residency follows Mexico's standard temporary and permanent resident pathways, which are relatively straightforward for retirees with documented income. On the downside, high season between November and April brings a sharp spike in prices across restaurants, rentals, and services as tourism surges. Tourist zone pricing has also started creeping inland in recent years, eroding some of the value that made this place attractive a decade ago. Number 11, Mississippi, USA. This one will raise a few eyebrows, and that reaction is precisely why it belongs on this list. Mississippi is consistently ranked as the cheapest state to live in across the entire United States, and for those who want a lower cost of life without leaving the country, that is a significant fact that rarely gets the attention it deserves. The southern half of the state offers warm weather for most of the year, with Gulf Coast access through Biloxi, Gulfport, and the surrounding communities. The landscape is not dramatic, but it is genuinely pleasant, and small city life in places like Hattiesburg or Ocean Springs carries a pace and affordability that is difficult to match anywhere in the country. Monthly costs for a comfortable lifestyle in Mississippi run between $1,500 and $2,300, with a one-bedroom in town coming in around $800 to $1,200. Entry-level property starts as low as $130,000. The tax profile is genuinely remarkable for retirees, a flat income tax rate of 4.7% that is set to drop further, some of the lowest property taxes in the nation, and a full Social Security exemption. Farmland is available at $3,000 to $3,800 per acre for those with a different kind of investment in mind. On the downside, the Gulf Coast carries real hurricane exposure, rural healthcare access outside the main population centers is uneven, and the summers in the southern half are genuinely humid in a way that some people find difficult to adapt to. Number 10, Boquete, Panama. Boquete is a small highland town in the Chiriquí province of western Panama, sitting at around 1,200 meters above sea level in the foothills of Baru volcano. It is surrounded by coffee farms, cloud forest, and the kind of scenery that draws a very specific type of person, those who want warm weather without the tropical heat that defines most of Central America. Temperatures here hold remarkably steady between 16 and 24 degrees Celsius year-round, which is what has drawn a particularly loyal North American retiree community over the past 2 decades. The town has good infrastructure relative to its size, with English widely spoken in expat-adjacent businesses and a social scene built almost entirely around outdoor activities and community events. Monthly costs sit around $1,500 all in for a comfortable life, with rent for a one-bedroom between $600 and $1,000. Property entry points start around $150,000. Panama's Pensioner Do program remains one of the most respected retiree residency pathways in Latin America, offering discounts on healthcare, transport, and entertainment in addition to a clear legal framework. The honest downside here is scale. Boquete is a small town, and the limited international flight access means Panama City is a necessary transit hub for any significant travel. Additionally, roughly half the year sees consistent rainfall, which shapes daily life more than the marketing tends to acknowledge. Number 9. Saranda and the Albanian Riviera, Albania. If you are looking for a Mediterranean coastline without Mediterranean prices, Albania is flying under the radar in a way that will not last much longer. Saranda sits at the southern tip of the country, directly across the strait from Corfu, and the visual comparison is almost unfair. Clear blue water, limestone cliffs, whitewashed towns. The scenery is essentially identical to its Greek neighbor, and the cost is a fraction of what Corfu commands. Monthly living costs run between $700 and $1,200, making it one of the cheapest Mediterranean options on the entire map. Rent for a one-bedroom in Saranda comes in around $300 to $550 a month, and entry-level property can be found between $50,000 and $120,000. U.S. citizens currently enjoy a one-year visa-free stay that is renewable via a border run, and formal residency can be established through property purchase or employment. Savvy investors have already started buying here as infrastructure investment accelerates and the country pushes toward EU candidacy. That said, Albania is not without its complications. It is not in the EU or Schengen, which limits onward travel flexibility. Property registration and rule of law are still developing in ways that require careful legal due diligence before any purchase. Roads outside the main coastal corridor can be rough, and the overall pace of modernization, while genuinely fast, remains uneven. Number 8. Marrakech and Essaouira, Morocco. Morocco occupies a position that is genuinely unique on this list. It sits within a 3-hour flight of most major European cities, yet it operates in a completely different cost bracket from anywhere in Europe. Marrakech offers the cultural intensity, the color, the architecture, and the energy of one of the world's great historic cities. Essaouira, on the Atlantic coast a couple of hours west, offers something cooler and quieter with a genuine arts community and a breeze that keeps temperatures manageable even in summer. Monthly costs run between $800 and $1,300 all in, with rent for a one-bedroom in the $400 to $750 range. Property entry points start around $80,000, with riads in the Medina available at various price points for those interested in renovation projects. The Carte de Séjour residency pathway offers an initial 1-year permit followed by a 10-year renewable, provided you can demonstrate income and a clean record. On the downside, French or Arabic is essentially required outside of tourist-facing businesses, and Marrakech's interior heat in summer reaches 45 degrees Celsius, which is a serious consideration for year-round living. Infrastructure quality is also noticeably inconsistent once you move beyond the main tourist corridors. Number 7. San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. San Miguel de Allende has developed a reputation that is almost too good for its own good. This UNESCO World Heritage City in the highlands of Guanajuato state sits at 1,900 meters, which gives it a year-round climate that many expats describe as close to ideal. Temperatures hold between 18 and 25 degrees Celsius with low humidity, and the colonial architecture, art galleries, language schools, and food scene have collectively built one of the deepest English-speaking expat communities anywhere in Latin America. Monthly costs run between $1,400 and $2,200, with rent for a one-bedroom between $800 and $1,500 depending on the neighborhood and proximity to the centro. Property starts around $200,000 on the accessible end, though quality colonial homes push considerably higher. Mexico's temporary and permanent resident pathways apply here as they do throughout the country. The downside is real, and it is worth being direct about it. Decades of expat popularity have gentrified pricing to the point where San Miguel is no longer a budget destination in the traditional sense. Some of the charm remains intact, but the value proposition has shifted. The altitude also takes genuine adjustment, particularly for arrivals from sea-level cities. Number 6, Sliema and St Julian's, Malta. Malta is a 27-kilometer island in the center of the Mediterranean, and it offers something that very few destinations at this price point can claim: English as an official language, full EU and Schengen membership, and a tax structure that is noticeably favorable for retirees drawing income from abroad. Sliema and St Julian's are the primary expat residential hubs, with good restaurant infrastructure, ferry access to the sister island of Gozo, and a climate that delivers over 300 days of sunshine annually. Monthly costs run between $1,800 and $2,700, which is higher than most entries on this list but reflects the EU location and English language convenience. Rent for a one-bedroom in the main centers runs $1,100 to $1,700. Entry-level property starts around $220,000. The Malta Permanent Residence Program requires a government contribution of at least $150,000 plus a property commitment, which makes it a more substantial investment than a simple passive income visa. On the downside, overdevelopment on such a small island has created genuine traffic and density problems. Moreover, the MPRP cost structure is considerably stiffer than the D7 or pensionado equivalents, which means those on tighter budgets may find better value elsewhere on this list. Number 5. Porto, Portugal. Portugal has been on the expat map for years, but most of the attention goes to Lisbon. Porto, roughly 3 hours north on the Douro River, runs around 25% cheaper and offers a character that many long-term expats argue is more livable. The city proper is compact and walkable, with a strong cafe culture, a wine region on the doorstep, and a coast accessible within 30 minutes. Monthly costs in Porto sit between $1,400 and $2,000 all in, with rent for a one-bedroom running $800 to $1,300. Property entry points start around $160,000 in the outer neighborhoods. Portugal's D7 passive income visa remains one of the more accessible pathways into EU residency, requiring demonstrated passive income and providing a route to permanent residency and eventually citizenship. The expat community here is growing noticeably fast, and that growth is tightening rental availability in ways that were not a factor 3 years ago. Additionally, Porto's winters are cold and genuinely damp in a way that catches arrivals from sunnier climates off guard. Those figures on paper are compelling, but the grey skies between November and March are a real lifestyle consideration. Number 4. Puglia, Italy. Puglia is the heel of Italy's boot, and it has been quietly absorbing retiree interest for several years without making the noise that Tuscany or the Amalfi Coast tend to generate. Lecce is often called the Florence of the South for its Baroque architecture, and Ostuni sits on a hilltop above the Adriatic in a way that needs no further description. The food culture in this region is among the finest in the country, driven by olive oil, seafood, and a cucina povera tradition that happens to produce exceptional results. Monthly costs run between $1,300 and $1,900 all in, with rent for a one-bedroom coming in around $600 to $1,000. Property starts around $80,000 on the accessible end, and Trulli, the iconic conical stone houses of the Vale d'Itria, are still available under $100,000 for those willing to take on a renovation. Italy's elective residency visa requires demonstrable passive income of around $31,000 per year. The headline figure here is the 7% flat tax on foreign pension income available in towns under 20,000 people. For retirees drawing income from abroad, this is a genuine standout benefit that very few destinations globally can match. On the downside, rural infrastructure in the south, particularly trains and hospital access, is considerably thinner than what Italy's northern cities offer. Summer crowds in the Salento beach towns can also shift the atmosphere significantly between June and August. Number 3. The Algarve, Portugal. The Algarve runs along Portugal's southern coast and consistently delivers one of the strongest combinations of lifestyle and value anywhere in Western Europe. Lagos in the west, Tavira in the east, and Faro as the regional hub together form an expat corridor with over 300 sunny days per year, Atlantic beach access throughout, and an English-speaking infrastructure that has been built over decades to accommodate British, Irish, and increasingly North American residents. Monthly costs run between $1,500 and $2,200 all in, with rent for a one-bedroom in the $900 to $1,500 range. Property entry points start around $180,000. Portugal's D7 passive income visa applies here as it does in Porto, offering a credible path into EU residency with a clear and well-tested process. Furthermore, the Algarve sits within 2 hours of Lisbon by road and has its own international airport at Faro, making it considerably more accessible than many coastal retirement destinations of equivalent quality. On the downside, high-season tourism between June and August noticeably inflates prices and crowds, particularly in Lagos and Albufeira. Rental availability outside the summer window can also be limited in the more popular coastal towns, which means early planning is essential before committing to anything. Number 2. St Kitts and Nevis. St Kitts and Nevis is a different kind of entry on this list, and it warrants a clear explanation of why it belongs here. This is not primarily a cost-of-living destination. Monthly costs run between $2,000 and $3,200, with property entry starting at $400,000. But what St Kitts offers is something no other entry on this list can provide: the oldest citizenship by investment program in the world, running since 1984, with a passport that delivers visa-free access to over 150 countries including the full Schengen zone and the United Kingdom. The program runs either via a $250,000 donation to the government's Sustainable Growth Fund or a $400,000 qualifying real estate investment. There is no income tax in St Kitts and Nevis, the political climate is stable, and the island itself is a genuinely pleasant Caribbean environment with strong infrastructure by regional standards. That said, be clear-eyed about what this is. It is a passport acquisition strategy, not a retirement plan for those watching their monthly budget. The island is small, services are limited, and the cost of living is not competitive with most of the list. If a second passport with serious global mobility is the objective, this is the most established and legally robust path available at any price. If budget living is the goal, the next entry is the one to watch. Number 1. Punta Cana and Bavaro, Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic closes this list for a specific combination of reasons that no single other entry can replicate. Monthly costs run between $1,200 and $1,900 all in, with a one-bedroom in the resort corridor available for $600 to $1,100 a month. Entry-level property starts at $100,000, and the eastern coast has been attracting international real estate investment at a pace that suggests the window for early mover pricing is narrowing. The climate is year-round Caribbean, with the Punta Cana and Bavaro corridor on the eastern tip of the island offering consistent trade winds that moderate temperatures more effectively than much of the Caribbean basin. Direct flights connect to the US, Canada, and multiple European capitals daily, which matters considerably when evaluating genuine livability versus resort isolation. The residency structure is genuinely competitive. The pensioner due pathway requires $1,500 per month in pension income, while the rentista route requires $2,000 per month in passive income. Both are well within reach for the retirees this channel speaks to. From there, the Dominican Republic offers the fastest residency to citizenship timeline in the Americas, with naturalization potentially available in approximately 2 years from residency approval. That is a number worth sitting with. 2 years to a second passport in the Caribbean, at a cost of living under $1,900 a month, with direct connections to 3 continents. The honest downside is worth naming clearly. The resort zone bubble of Punta Cana is its own ecosystem, and stepping outside it into the broader Dominican Republic shifts the experience considerably in terms of infrastructure, noise, and comfort levels. Hurricane season runs from June through November and requires preparation and awareness, particularly for property owners. But taken as a complete package, combining affordable living, a fast and clearly structured residency pathway, the potential for citizenship inside 2 years, Caribbean climate, and international flight access. Nothing else on this list comes close. And there you have it. 12 of the most overlooked destinations for relocation and retirement in 2026, ranging from a US state that beats most foreign competitors on pure value, to a Caribbean republic that offers the fastest path to a second passport in the hemisphere. Every entry on this list has a genuine case to be made for it, and the right choice depends entirely on what you are actually looking for, whether that is lowest monthly cost, fastest residency, best climate, or the strongest overall package. Hopefully this gives you a clearer picture of where the real opportunities are sitting right now. If you found this useful, consider subscribing. We cover destinations like this every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.